So, good morning, good morning. So, today I am sitting down and I'm really excited. I'm, in fact, so excited that I kind of have to like hold myself back a little bit because otherwise it's going to get really loud. I'm sitting down with the gorgeous Hazel Butterfield, presenter, blogger, radio host, extravaganza, entrepreneur, amazing woman. We met a few weeks ago and immediately I was like, I don't know really what this woman's about, but I really like her energy. So Hazel, thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for inviting me. I've just said, I'm so gutted I'm not in a ball gown. We should have really gone high end on this.
I mean, you're right. And what I'm also thinking, this got me thinking that going forward, I need to theme these episodes. Each episode, right.
I love that for you.
I know we need to have a theme because listeners out there, if you're not watching the YouTube and you're just getting our awesome audio, this morning I somehow ended up in a ball gown, and I do not know how it happened. I got out of bed, did my thing, had a shower, all the usual, and all of a sudden, one, two, three, and I was like, almost like a Disney moment, with like there's birds and there's like a spinning thing and there's some sparkling stuff and there's a wand, and then all of a sudden she's and this is how I appeared. So today is going to be a party, but let's pivot back to what we are really here to talk about. So Hazel, let's start at the beginning. Where are you from and what kind of family system, if you like, were you born into? Was it like a traditional mom, dad, house dog, I don't know, whatever, or like mine, a crazy big wonderful patchwork of everything from everywhere?
I don't know, it's quite eclectic. I mean, I am from up north. So I was raised by my mum. My dad was kind of in the background a little bit. And I come from a bizarrely kind of strong female background where my grandma as well. Grandma was there. Granddad was somewhere in the background, kind of walking dogs with me. But my grandma was this like fiercely kind of, she was such a feminist, but even in the 1950s, she had like 4 jobs. And I'm not talking like the kind of lower level jobs. I'm talking magistrate and counselor and things like that while having 4 kids, absolute bonkers. Same with my mum, being a single mum, she would have so many different jobs. And, she got her degree when she was in her 40s. So, it's excellent for me, but it also meant that I just automatically assumed that women can do anything. You know how society, especially 10, 20 years ago, it's telling us that we couldn't. And I was like, what?
Oh,
No. So I was kind of naive in a way because I always just did whatever I wanted. And then I got that judgment from the side because it was like, well, who the hell does she think she is? And I just never thought there were any restrictions. So I've always kind of just seen something I wanted and
100%. And I'm sitting here going like, wow, this makes even more sense why I felt this really strong connection to you because I'm so similar. So I'm from like a really powerful female line. So my great grandmother, she was this incredible woman that although she didn't have 500 jobs, but her energy, she was literally like the center of the family. She brought everyone in. She was the one who was like working with the land and with like teaching me how to plant and, sow and understanding how nature worked and just always was like, would sit me down because she was my great grandma on my dad's side and my parents split up when I was very little. And I always was kind of almost like a mediator between the two, as kids often do, right? Almost becoming a therapist for both of them. And my great grandmother was always like, sat me down and would just listen to me pour my heart out and not taking sides and just kind of, letting me do my thing. And so, but she was very much the center of the family on my dad's side. And then on my mom's side, I had my mom's mother who at the ripe age of like, I don't know, just after the Second World War, so like late teens, picked up a man from Scotland and sailed across to Australia and had her first kid there, her second kid, my mom, in Papua New Guinea, so even more adventurous. And then after a few years was like, this is not working, picked up her kids, sailed back to Denmark, en route there, fell in love with another dude and took the kids to England for a while and then back to Denmark and basically placed her kids with her own parents and went out and got an amazing job. And my mom was the same. So I also sort of grew up with not really a dad. And of course, my dad was around-ish, but it was very 100% exactly. It was not the leading force. I had my great grandmother, then I had my mom, and then I had my mom's mother, and it was these sort of three females that were just the drivers. And like you, so I've always just had this like a woman can do anything. Like, and then I'm also from Denmark, so very different culture as well. We're like, since you grow up, you're like, we are Pippi Longstocking. Like we have got this sort of Viking thing about us. And on one hand, it's been amazing, and just like you, on the other hand, also on a personal level, like really deeply personal, it's been really difficult for me to create space in my life for a partner, like a male partner, to actually go, you know what, it'd be nice to have you here. Because I've always kind of been like, oh, they're just kind of floating around in the background. This is not really what this is about. So I'm
find the unicorn. You need to find somebody that appreciates your strength and isn't threatened by it. And there are many men out there that can do that, men or women, depending on what your inclination is. But it's a tough one, because sometimes strong people, we are quite hard sometimes to manage, because we know that things just kind of get done if we're kind of in control of it. But also, some people will just let you ride that wave and they'll support you, and other people will either get frustrated and they're just not the right people for you.
right. No, I love that, Hazel. And actually, I am actually engaged at the moment. So I did find a good unicorn in the end. We are in a good spot. I just wanted to kind of like, exactly, I just wanted to like, hands up, gone like, I can really relate to that. But let's go back to you. So this is the foundation that you came from. Do you have brothers and sisters?
So I have one brother and two half sisters. Virtually all of my family still live up north in Huddersfield, where I'm from. I mean, I was working so many hours all over the country when I was about 18. So at about 19, I just packed up my car and moved to London, and I've never been back.
Oh my God.
I go back for like weddings and funerals and things like that.
Yeah.
So I moved to London, and it just always worked.
Um,
So my two half sisters, one's in France and one's in Spain, which is brilliant, because actually it's easier to get to Spain, considering where I live in London, than it is to get up north, because I'm 10 minutes away from Heathrow and 20 minutes from Gatwick. So it's like,
oh my God.
given traffic. And so so I've basically been in Southwest London since I was 19, 20.
Okay, and what brought you to London initially, apart from London being everything that London is? But what was there, like a specific pursuit? Was it love? Was it work? What was it, Hazel? Were you running away from something? Were you running towards something? What was it?
Little bits on column A, B, C, D, E. Definitely not for love, but also I was kind of in a boring relationship, and I was like, this is to just move away. But I need to do like the censored version of how it kind of happened, because I was working ridiculous hours everywhere. I used to manage a restaurant, and I was doing a lot of modeling and a little bit of acting and this, that, and whatever. And I was always, on the odd day off that I'd either be modeling in London or doing extra work or acting work in various places. And it got to a stage where I was constantly in London. And a friend of mine who I went to drama college with, and this is why I've got to keep it censored, we were out in Manchester having a ball, and we might have had a few drinkies, and we're like, let's move to London. We're already here so much. So basically, I bought a house when I was very, very young. So basically, I must have made a call a little bit tipsy that night and said, can you put my house up for rent? Next morning, I wake up with a little bit of a hangover, and my local letting agency in Huddersfield saying, hi, you listed your property with us last night, and although we haven't done the pictures yet, we've already got a taker. Somebody knows where the property is and they want to take it. They'd like to move in 2 weeks. So then I phone my mate and I say, do you remember doing this last night? He's like, yeah. Says, anyway, are you up for a road trip in 2 weeks? Because I'm moving to London. He's like, yeah, of course I am. So literally, he actually lives in Manchester. He got the train to Huddersfield 2 weeks later. We then did the trip to, honestly, we got to London. I just dropped him at Richmond Station and he just went back to Manchester. And from then on in,
That's a friend.
he was so much fun. Yeah, we've caused a lot of trouble together, but so much fun as well. So yeah, that's how it happened. And then 4 years later, I decided there's not a chance I'm ever coming back, and so I might as well buy a place down south. So I sold my place up north, and boom.
Amazing. I love it so much. And this is another similarity. So I was modeling for 14 years and I trained at the Royal Danish Ballet as a ballerina to begin with. And then I went into acting when I came over to London. And I came to London at 16. So we actually have quite a few little crossovers here that I didn't know about, which is so sweet and weird and wonderful. And I also love the spontaneousness, the whole like, I'm just gonna make a random phone call to this estate agent and like let's just get the wheels moving. And then it's like, oh my God, they moved. In fact, they rolled. And now I just gotta roll with it. I love it. What an amazing, amazing start.
I mean, it was a great house, to be honest. It was just really, really bonkers. But to be honest, I am quite known for making rash decisions. I mean, even when I was in London, but even before I moved to London, if I wanted to just go on holiday, like I would have like 4 hours notice sometimes, and I'd wake up the next day and I would be in New York with not the correct clothing, and have to go shopping in H&M or something like that. I've always made kind of random decisions, but that's because it seems really reckless, but because I've always worked, I always wanted to make sure, even as a very young child, I've always had savings, and I always wanted to work so that I could have the freedom to make random choices that, although they look spontaneous and not thought out, I always had the money to do it. I never came back from a holiday with debt. If I went on holiday, it's because I'd paid for it up front. And also, you know, there was always planning underneath. So I'm a little bit OCD in that respect, but yeah.
Oh my God. This is so wild because this is exactly what I've done my whole life. So I started saving, and this was again my grandmother. My grandmother gave me like a saving, like actually it was a penguin. A penguin was the symbol of our local bank, and the penguin was like a saving box. Yeah, I noticed behind you, penguin. So like I had this little penguin since I was like, I don't know, however I could remember. And then I would save my little teeny tiny coins, right? And I did the same with my dad. I was like, hang on a second, you have spare coins. They should go into my penguin. So since I was very little, just like you, I became super aware that saving money meant freedom. And so, and I've done exactly the same thing. I love a spontaneous idea. I love, like, I've been self-employed my entire life. And again, with the whole like acting, modeling, dancing industry, like very often, like the thing is so crazy last minute. And then you either love that or you hate it. I've always saved money along the way, but just like you, what from the outside could be like, Josie, are you not going to be in Paris tomorrow? And I'm like, no, I'm now off to Iceland. Yes, it can look really reckless and it is spontaneous, but at the same time, I had planned and saved since I was a child. So all of the logistics are there in place. And that also means that then you can fuel the lifestyle and the personality that you actually are.
I think, yeah, it's having that comfort to know that you can do it. You can,
exactly.
Two things can be true at the same time, right? You can
Yes!
be reckless and you can be organized.
Oh my God, 100% quantum physics right there. I love it. It is so true. Absolutely. Two things can and are indeed true at the same time. This is so good, Hazel. Well done. What a nice little mantra. Yeah, but not like, no, not to sound like not undermining. Like I loved it sentence so much. Two things can absolutely be true at the same time. And it's similar also to, I don't know how, in your life now, but quite often people come and they come to have a coaching session with me or whatever, and they're like, oh, you're just so free flowing, and it just sort of pops out of you. And I'm like, I have studied like the human mind and myself since I was a kid. Like, so yes, like I can come across as if it's just coming out, but actually I'm a complete perfectionist. I'm highly OCD in many ways. And I've just been obsessed with what I like with learning about us as a species my whole life. So yeah.
There are so many parallels between us. I mean, it was quite interesting. And for everybody that's listening or watching right now, when I did meet Josie, it was on my Riverside radio show. And even in between, like when there was adverts or we were playing songs, sometimes we were like semi forgetting to come back on air because it was like but so what I did when I was about 21, because I never went to university at the traditional time. So then I started doing a psychology degree. And so I do have a social science and psychology degree. I did that and I did it kind of randomly. But I used to have a book show for about 6 years, an international book show. And it got to a stage where most of my guests would feel like, and I do this at my other show as well, they would feel like they'd had a little bit of a counselling session, and I got really panicky. I was going, oh no, I didn't want it to be like that. I went, no, we love it. It's incredible to be able to talk so openly about something, and you're getting us to feel so comfortable about speaking about this, that, and whatever. And a lot of the books were sometimes about trauma, sometimes it was fiction, sometimes non-fiction, but the fiction was quite often based around something that had happened to them. And it got to a stage where I thought, to do this safely, I wanted to make sure that although I was having fantastic discussions with these authors and these guests, I wanted to make sure that I didn't do any further harm. So then I got trained as a counsellor. So I did my level 2 and level 3, and I'm working through my level 4, because I wanted to make sure that, yes, I might be having a great time on these shows and my guests might be loving it, but how do I know that some of the things that I was unpicking was unraveling something dangerously? So then I got trained as a counsellor to make sure. I didn't want to be a counsellor, although, maybe somewhere a little bit down the line. I just knew that my interview style really demanded me to make sure that I was a bit more responsible and made sure that I was asking the right things and keeping everybody safe.
Oh my God, I love that. And it also just shows your level of integrity, and you're actually, again, going back to that whole saving money thing, and, only using what you actually have saved for and all of that. Like, you've got this integrity, this groundedness, as well as the wildness and the spontaneity and the fun and all of that. But it's really rooted. You are like, literally like my plants, as above, so below. Like, you're nice and rooted as much as there's space for movement and dancing up here. I love it, Hazel. What an amazing, wow, this is another thing I didn't know. Wow. Okay, so now let's go back to you again. So there you are. You've just moved to London at the ripe age of, was it 18, 19, something like
19,
that?
I think it was 19 or 20. It was.
Okay.
I'm just be about to turn 20.
Okay. So in that space, so then what do you decide? So you're modeling, you're doing some acting. What happens next? What is another sort of like pivotal moment in Hazel's life where you're like, I want to change direction, or like, oh, I'm going to do this book club. Like, because it almost seems as if kind of similar, like we're picking stars from the sky, like, oh, I'm going to do this thing and then I'm going to turn it into a thing. Like, talk us through it. Have you just always, kind of similar to me, have you always been self-employed, always just like got excited about something and just poured your energy into it and somehow it manifested?
No, I haven't always been self-employed.
Yeah.
I've had some relatively normal jobs as well.
Mm.
And especially with buying property down south, you have to have a PAYE or a ridiculous income, because otherwise you're not getting a mortgage. So I've always sensible in that respect. So so I had kids quite young. So I met my now ex-husband at 23, and we very, again, quite spontaneous. After about 6 months, which we were still in the honeymoon period, we're like, oh, do you know what? I mean, he had this fantastic career. I was loving what I was doing, but also I'd always wanted to have kids young. I wanted to be able to roll around in the dirt and kind of do things and have the energy to do it. And also deep down, I always kind of thought that because I wanted kids so much that I wouldn't be able to. And we then just decided well, like, let's just do it. So I had my first child at 24, which, to be honest, I am now 43. My eldest is 18. We've traveled the world. We've had an absolute riot. And I'm still exhausted. Imagine if I'd have done this 10 years later. I'd have been a wreck. It's interesting because having kids so young, it does cut you off from many other different things. You've got your different social groups, and it can be limiting in some ways, but it's fantastic in other ways. And it was the right decision for me. Obviously, the relationship didn't work out, which I don't think it would have worked out no matter when we'd got together or had children. But I love the fact that my kids are now 18 and 15. We all kind of have a riot together. And so then when that happened, obviously you have to take a little bit of a step back. I still did modeling, I still did acting, but I also had, I started off having a full-time job in finance of all things. And then I eventually, after the second child, I went part-time. So I've always worked like
I'm gonna have to stop you. So, finance.
yeah.
Oh, look at you and your right and your left brains and all of it merging together. I love it. Yes.
I'm working in finance now as well.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just did my 12-day boot camp on investment. So, another parallel. And by the way, I did end up buying a flat in London. And yes, I am self-employed. And so what I did was I got a buy to let. So there's always a way out, dear listeners. Do not believe that you have to
it just depends on what your circumstances are.
100%, 100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're also right. I totally get it. And if I had gone in and actually done a job with a consistent paycheck, that would have been a lot easier. And it wouldn't have taken me 20 years to finally go through my own trauma with like talking to a million different property experts, and no one ever mentioned a buy to let, which was wild because I had huge savings. As we know, I'm great at saving, but I didn't know how the rules worked. I didn't understand it. I just thought a residential mortgage was the only thing out there that was possible. And then finally after, yeah, I know, completely. But anyway, back to you. So finances. So tell us, so this was after your second child, you went into financial.
Well, I started working in this job about 6 months before I had my first child, and I was full-time, and then moved down to part-time. I was there for about 10 years. And because I was part-time for like the last 7 years, I was still doing modeling and acting and whatnot. And I was kind of wanting to go into the radio world. And then when my partner and I split up, it was literally within months, because one of the reasons why it didn't work is that he wasn't always that keen on me doing that kind of stuff, and he was a bit less said the better. Anyway, so pretty much as soon as the divorce came through, I got my first radio position. So I've now been divorced 10 years and I've been in radio 10 years.
Oh my God. Well, happy anniversary on all fronts.
So then I've always done, so then I did the radio, my first radio show, which was fantastic to get in there, which was also the most ridiculous. I completely lied to get the job. You really struggle to get into radio unless, you're a little bit flexible with the truth. So then I did that, and then I got my position at Riverside Radio, which I'd been at for just under 10 years. And then I got approached to have my own international book show. So I did that for 4 or 5 years, which I loved. And I wound it up about a year ago, just because it took up a lot of my time, and I realized I could do it on Riverside Radio as well. And then life just got really expensive, and I kind of like the corporate world as well. So I have this great mix of working in finance, doing the radio stuff, and I mean, I don't tend to do any modeling or acting anymore, which it's a shame, but also it possibly wasn't my forte, as much as I loved it. And so, yeah, no, I'm an exec at a finance company where I basically I help with their sporting events, their charitable events. I support the CEO, and do everything that's expected of an exec assistant. And yeah, it's brilliant.
Oh my God, Hazel, I just love this. So I do a lot of talks, but predominantly I do it for like the finance of City of London. So it's like that's another parallel. Listeners out there, sorry, it's not about you today. It's all about me and Hazel realizing how connected we are. How wonderful. But also, and I'm really just loving, I'm just so happy I asked you to come on and that you wanted to do it because it's that thing of like understanding that we are multifaceted and we will need to nourish mind, body, and heart. We will need multiple different avenues, and like you said, the same can be true at once, right? So you're not just white and you're not just black and you're not just this and you're not just that, and we are also ever changing, ever evolving. So that thing of like, for instance, with your relationship and you said, okay, we ended up deciding not to stay together, but that's not a failure, and it's also not evidence that it wasn't right or anything else. It's just that you evolved, he evolved, things changed.
Yes,
Like,
completely. And I think it's important that we accept when things aren't right and move on. And I'm sure there are people who are listening right now who think, oh, but what about the damage to the children? Sometimes children need to know that you can make mistakes and things can go wrong and you can move on and you can move forward. If children think you can't make mistakes or start again, what are we teaching them?
oh my God, 100%, a million, thousand times percent, 100%. And also that thing of like, I mean, it's just so toxic to model anything but authenticity as a parent. And I mean, I'm not a parent, and I totally get that there are things where you're like, ooh, this is too intense. And we think that we can save our children by not showing them the full picture. But the thing is, they already know what's going on. They can feel your energy. They pick up. Like communication is so much more than what we say and do and act, right? It's the intention behind it. So they know when something is up. And if you're acting in a way that's not in alignment with what they're picking up and what they're feeling and what they know is true in their heart, then you're making them really nervous and anxious because your actions and your words are not in alignment with what's actually going on inside of you.
I think what is really important and something that I really try and model for my children,
Yeah.
and I've made so many mistakes in my life, but also I think it's really important that you kind of talk about these mistakes. Being a parent is hard, whether you're with a partner or not.
Mm.
Granted, being a single parent, there can be additional challenges, which means that sometimes you can be fallible. You can make mistakes. You can be exhausted. You can get frustrated with, either doing everything or having to combat the other side where you're not necessarily aligned.
Mm.
And so I've lost the plot a few times,
Yeah.
and I will turn around to the kids and just go, yeah, sorry about that. I think I was over the top. I kind of lost it a little bit. I'm just exhausted. And I think maybe when I'm exhausted, we need to know that we've all got to give each other space. And likewise, when my kids have done something wrong and kids do lose their rags, they can say the most horrendous things to their parents because, they feel comfortable to do that. And I've always just said, yeah, mum does that. You apologize, you talk about it, move on. Don't apologize. If you don't apologize, I'm not interested. And it just, the amount of times my kids have been tired or frustrated or something's been going on at school and they've said something horrible and they've come in and gone, oh, yeah, I think I was a bit irrational and I would like to apologize for what I said to you. Yeah, no problem. Should we go out and get pizza? Yeah, all right.
Oh.
It's the same with anybody in life. Friends can do horrific things to you. Family members can. Apologize, acknowledge what you have done, move on.
100% own what took place, and teaching that and modeling that, and modeling that to your children, going like, hey, I am like, no one is perfect, because that's also another thing, right? So then you are giving permission, right? Exactly. And you're giving permission, you're saying like, this is life, right? Like you're gonna have a moment, this person's gonna have a moment, but the most important thing is that we don't take it too serious, right? It's like, okay, well, that happened, we take ownership and we go like, hey, I'm so sorry I did this thing. And then to be able to forgive. How beautiful. I love that, Hazel. Amazing. So wonderful. Okay. I could like, let's go back again. So I'm like, okay, child number two, you're in the world of finance. And then, the divorce at the same time as the radio show. I want to ask you something, because there was something you said. You said, I always wanted to have kids, and because I wanted them so much, I was scared I might not be able to.
Mm.
So what does that touch in you? Because that's a big statement.
Yeah, I think that's to do with confidence, I guess, and just I don't really know. I've never really unpacked that, but I just always worry that I always try and kind of negatively or positively attribute most scenarios so that I can manage my own mental well-being. I've always kind of struggled a little bit with, I mean, don't we all? But it's, yeah.
But I have 10 arms in the sky right now, of course. There's so many of me in here.
Hello. So I've always felt like I've got to manage my own expectations and manage my own mental health and mental well-being. So if there's something I super want, like whether it's a job or a house or I don't know, even for a relationship to work, I always have to attribute the alternative side positively so that if it all goes wrong, I don't crumble. So I always have to try and work, and I've always done it. I mean, I'm sure a psychologist would read so much into that and go, tell me a bit more about this. It's so, yeah, I've always felt like I need to manage
No.
myself, and I think it's careful. This is why I read a lot, because I have to make sure I want to understand as much as I can so that I can help manage my own expectations and my own issues that I know I've had since I was a kid.
100%. And also, I think you're touching on something really valuable, Hazel, which is that we all do and we all have. And, you know, in the end of the day, like life, like I don't think there's like, you know, there's any kind of truth or any kind of real reality, like this is black or, you know, this is positive or this is negative. Like you said, both are true at the same time. And understanding that just because something is in your head. So let's say you really wanted the kids, right? And then as you're sitting there going like, oh, I really want the kids, and you're noticing the feeling in your heart and you're like, yay. And then another little thought walks in and this little thought takes center stage and she's like, this is not for you. You cannot do this. And I don't know why she's French and she's kind of like standing there with a long cigarette and she's like, Hazel, who do you
Because
think
it's
you
so
are?
classic.
It's like with that body of yours. No, right? I don't know. But you see, like, but when we start to have that ability where we are noticing that, there's a part of me that's like a French actress that is like telling me all the reasons for why I can't do X, Y, Z or have or be or whatever. When we notice that, she's in there, but she's not all of me, right? Like that's a little thought, but just because it's a thought doesn't mean it's the truth.
Well, the more we understand ourselves, the more we can manage all these different elements of ourselves.
That's exactly it, right? And it's like, so the way that, so for you to have decided, actually, I always need to kind of think it through to the very end and kind of find an ending, like a worst case scenario perhaps, that I feel comfortable with. Where, because I do the same, where I'm like, oh, but if that happened, then finding a worst case scenario, but then befriending it and kind of going, well, then I would do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, I'm actually okay with that. Like that would be okay. Then I can risk it all and going out and do it anyway and see what the outcome is. Yeah.
I think the more we want something, the more hormonally we can kind of jeopardize ourselves. I mean, I really struggled to get pregnant with my second child. I'd had a bit of a medical issue and the doctor said there's a chance you probably won't. So basically, I booked a flight to Namibia where I go and build a school for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it was,
as you do.
Yeah, because then I knew that if I didn't get pregnant, I was going to go do something incredible. My body relaxed because it kind of thought, hey, well, you know, if this happens, cool. If this happens, cool. And I got pregnant within about a month from then. And this is after trying for like a year and a half.
And I really, really, really love that. And there is also, you know, I think as a woman as well, because it's in your body. It's in your body. And so it's so hard to not take it personal. It's so hard to not be like, ooh, am I somehow not able to do this thing that is apparently the most ancient, the most, you know, like natural thing in the world. So I think, this is a really, really potent thing that you're sharing. So thank you so much. And I love this thing that you said, like, okay, so how, these were the facts. I noticed I was starting to stress about it. How could I support myself in the best way and go, okay, actually, I can't just push the stress away and go like, no, I'm not having that thought. That weird, mean French actress is not on my stage. No, she is on my stage. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just starting to worry that like the French are gonna go. Why are we the bad person on the shoulder?
I know, I don't know, but it happens. Yeah, so no, I love that. I love that you did that. That's really, really good. And it is that thing because it's like, okay, how can we how can we make friends with what we're experiencing in this moment, right? And the fact that you booked that trip and you're like, if this happens, it's going to be great. I'm going to be doing an amazing thing. Yes, I might be sad, but I'll still be doing an amazing thing out there. If this thing happens, it will be beautiful. Either way, you have actually parented yourself and gone like, I'm looking after you. I'm not denying that part of me is stressed or wanting something or is worried about something. Instead, I've actually sat myself down, parented little inner child and gone, hey, there's some good options here either way. And let's just go ahead and make today a fucking awesome day. Like, I love that. That's really beautiful.
Well, do you know in the international book show that I had, at the end of every show, I would say to my guests, tell me 3 things that you live by that would help our listeners. And virtually all of them would have similar parallels where it'd be based around purpose. If you've got purpose, you can sort a lot of your mental health issues. And sometimes when you're feeling really low, it's maybe because you've lost your way a little bit and you need to find that purpose. So I've always really tried to kind of take on board what my guests would say. And I remember thinking about a year and a half ago that I wasn't feeling great and I couldn't figure it out. And I was feeling quite down within myself. And I was like, I'm lacking in purpose. I'm just getting stuff done. I'm sorting the kids out. I'm going to work every day. And it's just, I'm not doing something that feels kind of authentic to me. And so by the end of that day, I'd signed up to do a wing walk for a charity that I'd researched and eventually found this charity that was so perfect for me. It's a charity called Support Dogs, where basically, I mean, I love animals. I am off the charts. And I found a charity that trained dogs to support humans and children, adults and children, to either, for those who, like children under 18 who were autistic, to kind of help them kind of have some sort of friend and help them communicate a little bit better. But also people with disabilities, the dogs were trained to kind of help them just live a normal life. And also there was seizure alert dogs. So people who would have these really scary seizures, dogs would give them a 45-minute warning. So if they're at Tesco's or whatever, the dog would go, and they go, yeah, cool, all right, I'll go. Or if they're at home and they have a seizure and they're on their own, the dog is trained to like bring towels to kind of put underneath them and put them in a safe position and lay on them. And it's absolutely fantastic. So I found this charity and decided to raise a few thousand by wing walking. And do you know what? That you can do this in any way that kind of suits your own personality. But just having that reminder that I needed purpose sorted me right out. It gave me something to look forward to. It made me feel like I was doing good for something. And it also encouraged me to find out more about the world as well, because I didn't even know this charity existed until I kind of looked for the right charity to support. But yeah, purpose, Josie.
Oh my God, it's all about the big P. This is so true. Absolutely amazing. And I'm loving this charity and I'm loving how your self-reflection and your self-awareness and you're like, hang on, what is it in me? What is in me? Like, what is speaking within me? Because it's so easy to be like, hey, what's wrong with the outside world? But actually to go, and not to dig in and go like, oh, what's wrong with me? But to kind of go like, like, what is it I'm really yearning for? What is it I'm longing for? What is it that, how am I feeling right now and how can I best support myself? And then going out and creating that again, self-parenting. I love that. I mean, so I'm not a mom, who knows if I will be, but that thing, I always talk to my little child and I always see myself like picking her up with my hand and I'm like, come on, we're going to do this thing. Like this is an amazing ability. So this is so beautiful. You're so right. The whole purpose thing. I love that. And another weird, wonderful thing, I don't know if you know, but I've written 3 books and I am constantly interviewing other authors. So this whole thing that you were like, you love books as well. I was like, okay, Hazel, this is getting out of control. These similarities here are just wild. I love it. This is so cool. And my new book, by the way, is about finance. So that's wild as well. So there we go.
Well, you'll come back into the studio, right?
Please, we must do this. But because of time, I'm gonna pivot you over to your own personal, because you know how you said on your show, you had the, asking people to share 3 things. And as you know, dear listeners, we have arrived at the perfect time where I'm gonna ask Hazel, I'm gonna look into her beautiful eyes and I'm gonna ask, with all the wisdom that you sit in now, with all the experiences you've had in life, with all the times you said yes and you said no and you doubted and all the rest of it, if there were just 1 or 2 soul messages for humanity that you would share, and you've already shared so much beauty, and that whole purpose thing is amazing, and that can also be one of them. But if you just had 1 or 2 soul messages for humanity, for our listeners, what would it be, Hazel?
Okay, I think my soul message, if you want change and authenticity in your life, you've got to expect a little bit of chaos. Now, I think sometimes people they're scared of chaos, but just go straight for it. I think you just got to accept that there might be a bit of chaos, but nothing amazing's worth it without a little bit of effort. So, that would be one thing. I actually do have a tattoo that says, if you want change, it's actually it's Nordic, because Huddersfield actually had a lot of Viking settlers. So yeah, it's kind of down my side that says, if you want change, invite chaos. So I love that, because sometimes people think you're reckless when you're being chaotic, and that's just to try and keep you in a box, and that's not going to work for me.
Is it done in runes? You said it's in. No way, I love that. You've got a rune tattoo. And the words are so powerful. Beautiful.
I absolutely love it. And I think the other thing is that what life has taught me is that the right people for you will love and support you, and they'll be constructive if possibly you're going off kilter a little bit. Anything else, those people are not for you. Do not respect the opinion of people that want to make you feel bad about yourself. So if someone is doing something to you and saying something and making you feel bad, you need to look at their motivations. And I think if you have the ability to kind of look beyond it and you think that person actually wanted me to feel bad, they're not for you. It'll hurt, and sometimes it's like a grieving process once you realize that that's the situation. But the right people will love and support you and find a really nice, loving way to help you be the best person you can be.
Oh my God, so powerful. I love both of those statements. And actually, also 2 things we haven't had on the show before. So this is absolutely amazing. I think also, just to like juice it out a little bit more, the first one is so true. We want the change. Oh, I say this all the time. So it's this thing where we can't walk around and, like walk around and tell everyone how we want a red dress, but then secretly at night we're like, I really wish I had a yellow dress, right? Like the point is, you cannot walk around, live a specific life, and then long for something else, hope for something else, like think that if I just pray enough, or if I do my meditation and I write my journals about that yellow dress, and the yellow dress is going to magically appear. Like, no. You have to take a stand. You have to start talking about that yellow dress. And even though it's going to be highly uncomfortable, all of a sudden going out into shops and trying on different yellow dresses.
But the more you try it, the more comfortable you will feel with it.
That's my point, right? So it's that thing of like, don't, take the action and know that, like you said, over time, the yellow will be the new red or vice versa, right? Like, it will, but there will be chaos. there will be resistance, there will be drama, there will be a storm, there will be a thunder, maybe just for a few days, maybe for a few months, whatever it is, but it's worth it in the end. But I think it's such a beautiful thing to go like, yes, there might be chaos, and that is part of the package, and that is not evidence of it not working out. It's not evidence that it's not for you. It's just a thing that most people don't talk about because it's kind of taboo. We kind of go like, oh, I wanted something else and then I did X, Y, Z and now I'm here, look at me, right?
Quite often that storm is from people who are wanting to dumb you down and to squash you into a box because it makes them look at their own lives. And so it's very much projection based. You know, if you start going out there and making changes and positive changes and people go, oh, if they do it, that's putting me in a situation where I feel like I might have to do it. So I need to knock that decision so that I don't have to think about it anymore.
100%. You're so right. Because it's that thing of like, especially with old friends, old family members, especially with people we've known for a long time, right? Because the longer we know someone for it, the more our pattern is kind of integrated. It's kind of like roots of a plant again, right? Like the longer the plant exists, the deeper the roots go. And then if one of my plants go, hey, I'm gonna like take my root in a different direction, that's gonna impact and affect everyone else, all the other roots, i.e. all the family members, all the old friends, all of that. And even though, like you said, even though you are there as your own root going, I'm loving this new me, right? But all the other roots, they start to feel insecure because it's like, oh my God, you like, now I'm sort of, because of you, and you making all these changes, like you said, now I have to look at my own life choices, and maybe there's things I don't want to see. And also it makes me really scared that you are unrooting because now I'm not really sure who I am anymore. And that's very scary. So you are so right. Yeah.
Scared people do not very nice things sometimes. So
that's so true. Hazel, it's been an absolute joy. Where can people listen to you more? And also I'm sitting here going, are you writing a book? Is this something that's happening?
No, I did write one, and this is a completely different podcast entirely. I'm thinking I might release it or re-release it again at a later date, but it's not the right time for me. But yeah, no, you can listen to me at Riverside Radio every Friday, 10 till 12. You can find me at hazelbutterfield.com and all my various socials. They're all down as Nutty Butty. It was something I set up when I was like 16 years old. Hazel Butterfield, Nutty Butty. I know. So you just type in Nutty Butty and you'll find me on all the socials. But yeah, come and have a listen. And make sure you come and listen into Riverside Radio when Josie comes back in to talk about her finance book.
Oh my God, yes, it's happening.
Yes.
Oh. And I think I feel like we might need a stage show, like this like whole ball gown, our gorgeous singing voices. Like, I feel like as much as audio is great, I feel like we need like an in-person thing, Hazel. I feel like this is coming on. Me and my weird and wonderful French woman over here is like, ugh, why are you doing this thing? It's just like, ugh.
Well, I think the French woman would like us to have espresso martinis in a bar somewhere, and we will record the next one like that, yes?
Sorry,
all you French people, I'm really sorry. That was a terrible accent. I really apologize.
We might need to do a formal apology. Oh my God. Hazel, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to say goodbye to the listeners now, and Hazel, I'll see you in a second, okay? So I'm just going to pause. Thank you so much, listeners. Have a beautiful day.